During one of the hottest summers Los Angeles had seen, in 1985, an epidemic of outbreaks from one man dubbed the Night Stalker instilled the fear in many residents of whom had never felt such a way in their seemingly sheltered Southern California homes.
Los Angeles police today added more killings to those already linked with the murderer called the Night Stalker.
Patrols and warned residents to lock their doors and windows and increase indoor lighting.
Let's get everyone mobilized together for self-defense in this valley. Who wants to be next? I don't.
As local LA County police departments were driven to their breaking points, victims who previously survived following attacks during the spring of that year had only seen glimpses of his dark figure. Sufficient physical evidence had yet to be recovered. Beginning in the spring of 1984, Mei Ling, a 9-year-old girl, was found murdered, beaten, and stabbed to death with no evidence whatsoever in the Tenderloin district of San Francisco, tailed by a 79-year-old woman brutally murdered in her northeast Los Angeles home of Glacial Park. Evidently, LA County detectives didn't believe these killings were linked to the same person until March 17, 1985. Richard Ramirez, the man behind the mask, invaded 2 separate homes, with one surviving victim to describe his appearance. This would become a common occurrence among selected victims during the rise of the Night Stalker's outbursts. With the help from a psychotic Vietnam War veteran, bloodthirsty older cousin, Mike, also known as Miguel, who taught Ramirez how to open locked windows, ransack a home while remaining unseen, penetrate the skin effectively with the knife, maintain authority over women, and aim, shoot, and reload a gun, had prepared him to perform serial killings. However, Ramirez had made a mistake during the assault against 22-year-old Maria Hernandez. This was the first break for LA County Police to initiate a starting point for the up-and-coming case. Hernandez, who had faked her death after being shot, lived to inform authorities that he was tall, curly-haired, had foul-smelling breath, dressed in black, wore a baseball cap pulled over his eyebrows, and was carrying a gun. What previously had baffled police investigators began a series of key clues that uncovered the identity of the Night Stalker. Which leads to my question, what evidence did the state have to convict the previously unknown figure? And my claim, the state produced a vast amount of evidence to convict the Night Stalker. On May 14, 1985, in Monterey Park, LA, the Night Stalker ransacked, raped, and shot an elderly couple, each in the head. It was later discovered by authorities that a shoe print from an 11.5 Avia sneaker was left just outside. On May 30th, 2 elderly women from Monrovia, LA were raped, electrocuted, beaten with a hammer, and robbed. Once again, an imprint of the Avia sneaker, sized at 11.5, was observed on a clock that the killer stood on, in an attempt to yank it out of the wall. This time, the model of the shoe was revealed as the Avia 440. Few may say the Night Stalker did not commit these crimes because of the dissimilar ways each murder was carried out. Most of his killings had proceeded with the use of a gun. However, on June 27th in Arcadia, LA, when a middle-aged woman was nearly decapitated, a muddy Avia foot marking was left on the living room rug. In the same town, just 5 days later, another elderly woman's throat was nearly decapitated, with another Avia footprint left behind. July 4th, in Arcadia once again, a teenage girl is beaten severely with a tire iron and one more Avia footprint is left on the blanket of her bed. After these 3 killings, detectives began to notice the methods of attack and the similarities in evidence recovered from each crime scene. Despite the alternate ways these brutal attacks were executed, many can infer that the Night Stalker was one person. On August 25th of 1985, after yet another murder of a Mission Viejo couple, a local teenage boy claimed he had the license plate number of a suspicious car that cruised around the neighborhood earlier the day before. On August 30th, detectives recovered the stolen car by matching it with the plate number and a single fingerprint along the front rear view mirror, which allowed them to compare the print to previous crime scenes connected to the Night Stalker case. With the release of the Night Stalker's name, Richard Ramirez, and a photograph of him in every newspaper, it was almost impossible for Ramirez to escape his inevitable doom. Ramirez, who had laid low in Arizona with one of his siblings after his August 25th attack, took a plane back to LA. Clueless to newspapers and media coverage, with an image of his face exposed, he hopped onto an oncoming bus in which everyone recognized him as he ran from angry citizens in an East LA neighborhood, before being banged in the head with a pipe and thrashed by a mob of people before authorities arrived. The public of LA had rallied together in an attempt to prevent their homes from being ransacked and their lives taken. People felt almost as relieved as the investigators and lead detectives of the case. One could argue that the fingerprints observed were not identical. Nevertheless, the single print found in the stolen car was linked to multiple prints found in the East Los Angeles area homes, where a robbery or killing took place, such as the first identified on Maria Hernandez's roommate in the March 17th killing of 34-year-old Dale Okazaki, who was shot in the head and left with their blouse pulled up, containing a fingerprint that resided back to the August 25th incident. The evidence began mounting up against the Night Stalker. The connection between the crime scene fingerprints and the sneaker shoe imprints of the same model and size at each scene is enough evidence to convict this killer to life in prison and for multiple murder counts. Over the course of the Night Stalker's rampage, he inflicted havoc among neighborhoods of Southern California. Neighborhood watch programs were an initial necessity in most areas as citizens were phoning police anxiously curious as to where he usually invaded homes from. The majority of the calls came from the San Fernando and San Gabriel valleys, northeast of LA, including several towns that the Night Stalker had already raided. All LAPD responded accordingly to the recent calls and questions, emphasizing that even though the weather was undeniably hot, citizens were recommended to secure all windows and doors and to report any suspicious sounds or activity outside their homes. With the right amount of evidence, precisely connecting it to a particular person, whether it be from a fingerprint on a stolen car, a sneaker imprint on a carpet, or a victim's encounter with the killer themselves, it is clear what evidence one must obtain in order to convict and accuse a person of murder. Richard Ramirez was only the beginning for what has to come of serial killers in American history. Without him, security systems would not have been in demand, televised news wouldn't be as important to our everyday lives, and people wouldn't worry about the dangers altogether of the outdoors at night. Richard Ramirez impacted the way serial killers think and act as well as everyday goers in our modern day society.